Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar that we had this series of webinars since, basically the beginning of this year. And today we had our special guest that a lot of people actually are really excited to hear from our guest today. Khaled. He actually survived the unlawful detentions for almost 6 months. But our story with Khaled, and also I welcome my co-moderator Tanya, who has been also a great support for us and for the Just Cause Palestine. So Khaled, the story started back in January 28. We had this webinar that was planned to have Dr. Abu Sitti with us. And for some reason, Dr. Abu Sitti could not make it. And I lost all basically communication with him at that night. And I had a backup plan at that time, which is having Dr. Khaled Al Serr from Nasser Hospital to join our call and basically tell us what's going on in the truth. That was in January, 3 months into the genocide. We were sitting in our homes, not knowing what to do. So basically, that was our initiatives to start talking basically publicly on the issue and trying to expose the crimes the Israeli army is committing against the innocent people of Gaza. And we had Khaled at that time, where basically he was freshly graduated from his residency, and he described some very difficult cases, even for very high-level trauma surgeons would have difficulties dealing with, including Tanya herself was commenting on that particular day. And at that time, we actually thought, why not to start an online group, WhatsApp group, trying to provide support for Khaled and his colleagues at the Gaza hospitals. Up until early January, no medical personnel were allowed to go into Gaza to help. So we created this online group. WhatsApp started great work by Zarina. And basically, this online group had resulted in actually a true work and publications in the Lancet about this telemedicine group trying to help the surgeons in Gaza with limited resources. And at that time, basically, Khaled was detained, and this publication and presentation at the American College of Surgeons by Usaid made a great impact on the narratives of the Palestinian cause and the Palestinian surgeons. And then eventually Khaled basically got released. And we can assure you, Khaled, he's with us on the phone right now, he's connecting, that we never forgotten about you while you were in detentions. There were a lot of campaigns on Twitter, on social media, on news, trying to, find out what's going on with you, because a lot of long time was spent without knowing exactly what's happening with you. So the telemedicine group resulted in this publication, and we were happy about it. And then when I had the pleasure and the honor to serve the people of Gaza in February, came back in April, did this webinar where I had friends from everywhere being co-moderators, and then another webinar, and then another webinar. And then last webinar was, I had to really try to start targeting what's happening with the healthcare workers who were detained and what's happening with them in the detention. So we met with Dr. Muhammad Run November 17th, and basically it was a great documentation of what a surgeon, from surgeon to surgeons, trying to explain to them what happened to them and describe the bad situations that basically they went through in the detention camps. We took some time it was in Arabic last meeting, so we took some time to do the translation with English subtitles. It's available on the YouTube channel with this link, as you can see right there. And all the other webinars were actually in the link below. So just few comments about the healthcare worker detentions. This is the healthcare worker watch group. which actually they have done a very nice report published on October 7, 2024, a year into genocide. And so far, what we have for sure that there's a confirmed killing for almost 600 healthcare workers. There's another 420 healthcare workers who are reported killed, that this group is actually confirming the killing of these healthcare workers. Majority were nurses and physicians, and basically main healthcare workers, senior healthcare workers, founders of pediatric medicine, founders of pediatric surgery, the head of internal medicine, obstetric and gynecology, emergency department, pathology department, all these healthcare workers and physicians were killed by the Israeli army, trying to basically deepen and worsening the situations for the people of Gaza. For example, in Gaza, there's only 5 pathologists, 2 had retired, so left with the 3, 2 of them were killed. So the only 1 pathologist left for a 2.2 million Gazans. And that would reflect on all other healthcare issues, diagnosing cancer, treating cancer, all this. We have prevented these patients from the proper treatment and resulted in the death of so many innocent people. In terms of detention, 264 unlawful detentions of Palestinian healthcare workers. Majority were physicians and nurses again, and 4 of them were actually killed in the detention. 127 remains in custody, 23 still missing, 110 were released, 3 of them were detained twice and then released. This is just a reflections of the healthcare workers of Gaza, mainly physicians, nurses, everyone. You guys taught us what really the true meaning of being a physician and healthcare workers. And this is in solidarity and in memoriam of Dr. Hammam al-Law, who was the only nephrologist at the Shifa Hospital. And this is his interview with the Democracy Now! This is his last interview. Almost a month ago, it was the 1-year anniversary of his killing and martyrdom.
Why don't you go with your family south?
And if I go, who treats my patients? They are not animals. They have the right to receive proper health care. You think I went to medical school and for my postgraduate degrees for a total of 14 years, so I think only about my life and not my patients? I'm asking you, ma'am, do you think this is the reason why I went to med school? To think only about my life?
So this was his last interview. And then we had Dr. Adnan al-Bursh, who was killed in detention. He was the head of the department surgery, orthopedic surgery. And just a few weeks ago, there was a very interesting documentary that was released about the way he was killed and the way he was tortured. It was available on Sky News, basically for people who are interested. Then other basically physicians and healthcare workers who were killed in the detentions, Hamdan, Nab, Dr. Iyad al-Rantisi, and Dr. Ziad al-Dal. So again, why this is they're targeting healthcare workers and healthcare facilities because they want to deepen the basically and making the suffering much greater, and the death toll is much higher than you would expect. And by detaining healthcare workers while they are working, this would push some healthcare workers to fear detentions, and this would compound the staff shortage. A very nice report a strong report from Amnesty International few days ago that clearly concluded that what's happening is actually a genocide in Gaza. And now basically people have used this not a target, not a numbers, as a hashtag to stop targeting healthcare workers, killing them and detaining them. Khaled connected with us, and you guys know that basically the situation in Gaza in terms of the internet and the electricity is not stable. He's with me on the phone. We're hoping that now he's back again with us. So I would like to welcome our guest today, Khaled. He's a specialist general surgeon. He's at Nasser Hospital Medical Complex in Khan Yunis. He was again detained in March 25th, released after almost 6 months, September 30. He spent 3 months at the CD Teiman and the last 3 months at the Ofer prisons. Khaled, I'm going to start with this video for you. This is the day you were released from the prison. And this is you meeting your father. So Khaled, welcome, and want you to describe to me your feeling on that particular day. That we can't hear you, Khaled. Turn the mic on, please.
Hello, Mr. Teiman. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
After releasing me from the...
I believe, Khaled, you're connecting through the phone.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna disconnect you, and then hopefully you can connect your mic through the Zoom. Okay, can you speak now, Khaled?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me again. This is the second webinar together. Actually, after I have been released from Israeli prison, and from what I have seen through my stay inside the Israeli prisons, I dedicated myself to show the world the real face of our enemy for Israeli. Actually, after 14 months of the war, you have seen a lot of scenes, a lot of sites of destruction here in Gaza, but there's a lot of hidden stories inside the prisons. I can speak a lot of things happened there. I witnessed a lot of torture there. You asked me specifically at the day of my release. You know, at that day, I did not have any idea that I will be released in the morning. They took me, they tied my hands and they tied my eyes also and covered my eyes with the blindfold. And they took me in the bus. And I have been surprised that I am at Karim Shalom or Karim Abu Salem border. It's in the Rafah. So I was shocked to hear the news that finally, after 183 days inside the prison, I'm finally free. Not totally free, because in Gaza here, we consider ourselves in an open prison, actually. It's a big, huge, but still we are surrounded by an army. We cannot go outside freely. So I have been released from a small barracks containing 20 prisoners into a huge, large prison with 1 million population. At that day, I decided to not telling my family that I am coming home. I managed myself to get to my house by myself, despite that every street has been destructed inside my city. I figured to reach my neighborhood after difficulty of searching the buildings and the old marks in the buildings. And as you saw in the video, my father was shocked because he did not recognize me in the first sight. My shape has been changed. I lost a lot of weight inside the prison. But alhamdulillah, finally, my family was feeling a sad days at that moment. But alhamdulillah, now I'm very happy to saw my family all in good health, and they are fine. Because inside the prison, we are not allowed to get any information from the outside. And that's it.
So Tanya, the mic is with you now.
Thank you very much. And Dr. Khaled Al Serr, I know I speak for all of us when I say we're extremely happy to see you free, relatively free, but released from detention. and to see you and make sure that you're safe right now. So thank you for being with us. I wanted to take us back to the time that you're at Nasser Hospital before your abduction. Share with us, if you can, about the conditions in the hospital prior to your abduction. What were some of the injuries you were treating? And what were the conditions like in the hospital? And especially talk about, if you can, what was happening to your colleagues? Were they at risk of injury in the hospital? Did some of your colleagues even disappear prior to that? How many of them might have even been killed? Do you mind take us back prior to your detention, if you will? Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. If I remembered back in January, in 20th of January this year, IDF army entered or invaded the western side of Khan Younis, where the Nasser Hospital is now. And at that time, we were like 20 surgeons inside the hospital. Most of my colleagues decided to go outside Khan Younis because it's risky now to be inside the, and we know that Israeli armies will not respect a health facility, because we saw Shifa Hospital, Indonesian hospital, and Kamal Adwan before. So they decided to go to their families, to be with their families at that difficult time. In February, I stayed in the hospital along with my colleague, Dr. Ahmed Musa. So me and Dr. Ahmed Musa were the only surgeons inside Nasser Hospital at that time. We, alhamdulillah, we were able to rescue a lot of lives that time because we were the only surgeon that we operated almost 15 surgeries from the 1st of February until the total stop of Nasser complex after the IDF entered the hospital on 15th of February. And unfortunately, at that time, as Dr. Osama said, the idea of a telemedicine, we created that inside at that time because we were the only surgeon covering general surgery, vascular surgery, ENT surgery. So we have to adapt to that situation. And so I asked my cousin, he helped me to build the WhatsApp group and contact specialists and consultants from everywhere in the world. Anyone wanted to support and to give an idea about that time, how to help our patients. If I remember one case who had an injury, a shrapnel inside his heart, and we did not have any cardiologist at that time. And I asked my colleagues or my friends on the WhatsApp group how to do an echogram. So I trained myself, and they helped me to do an echocardiography for the patient to see if there is an injury inside the heart or not. I know it's difficult. I'm not an expertise at that time, but we tried to help with the minimum, and the minimum was that to do it by myself. In 15th of February, after the IDF, the Israeli army invaded the health facility, Nasser complex, they took like half of the medical staff to prison. They were detained. Dr. Ahmed Musa, my friend and my colleague, has been detained in 15th of February. Until now, he is in the prison. Recently, there is a publication, his message of inside the prison, how he was tortured in the prison. I can say about these situations inside the prison in later on, but I hope one day he will be released and be free with us.
So Khaled, my question to you, basically, the Israeli army had sieged Nasser for almost a month before your detention, is that right? And my understanding, you were detained twice, is that right? First time, and then you released?
Yeah.
Can you tell us more details? So basically, they got the Nasser under siege. They detained so many healthcare workers initially, including you. They released you. You went back to Nasser again, and then you got detained again after they came and destroyed Nasser. Tell us exactly what happened in terms of dates and situation.
I will explain it in details. In January, the Israeli army entered our city, Khan Yunis, or the western side of it, and they put a siege around all the city, including Nasser complex. But at that time, many of our colleagues decided, as I mentioned, to leave the city outside to Al Mawasi, which is more safe than Khan Yunis city. In 15th of February, when the Israeli army invaded the hospital and took the hospital, and we stopped our service because we have to evacuate under force of the Israeli army to evacuate the surgical building, the main surgical building, and to evacuate all the patients, all the medical staff outside the building. At that time, we had like more than 20 patients with amputations, post-op patients, post-laparotomy patients, and patients who need rehabilitation. They cannot help themselves with their personal issues. And after they took more than 40 persons from the health staff here, me and my colleagues and the director of the hospital, Dr. Khaled Al Serr, we tried to provide the health service. Despite that, the army are inside the hospital because there were more than 200 patients bedridden and need personal care. At that time, they interrogated me for 1 hour, and after that, they decided to leave me because there was patients, and they released me and 20 of my colleagues, nurses and doctors, and we stayed in the hospital despite that the army was inside the hospital buildings. They were searching for something, but alhamdulillah, there was nothing here because the director of hospital was clear at that time, and he contacted the army and telling them this is a health facility, we're providing health care for patients, whoever the patient are. But despite that, and every building, every room, they did not found anything, because this is our message as a health facility, as a hospital. And after 1 week, the Israeli army retrieved to the eastern side of the city, Khan Yunis city. At that time, the hospital were corrupted and destructed. A lot of machines has been destructed, and unfortunately, a lot of thieves came to the hospital under cover of the Israeli army, and they stole a lot of things from the hospital, even the infrastructures, the bathroom tools, everything has been stolen from the hospital. And in 15th of March or 10th of March, we decided to reopen the hospital again. So I stayed at the hospital in the whole time, from the 15th of February until my detention day in 25th of March. At that time, we were not providing healthcare. Because the hospital is not able to provide this. But we tried to clean the floors. We tried to reopen the hospital again, to gather new machines from other hospitals, and to gather our staff. Every day we were trying to clean every floor and every department. And we decided to open the hospital again, at least as a medical point, as emergency point for anyone injured near the hospital in the Khan Yunis city. But surprisingly, at 25th of March, the Israeli army decided to invade the Khan Yunis city again. And at that time, I was in the hospital along with my colleagues.
So let's just summarize. In February, they invaded the hospital, destroyed the hospital, Thieves went into the hospital, machines were stolen, the hospital was destroyed completely. Patients who needed wound care, post-laparotomies were in there. You as a surgeon were doing the nursing work and doing all these, issues for the patients. And then the hospital went completely out of service. Is that right, Khaled? And then you guys decided to reopen it, despite the fact that the Israeli is just across the street, not far away, and they might go in again and basically destroy the hospital. So why? Why basically you know that they might destroy it again, and everything that you're gonna do and clean, they mess it up again. Why you guys went back and decided to reopen it?
Osama, for myself, I consider the hospital, Nasser Hospital, as my first home because most of the time I spent during my residency program and also since October 7, most of my time I spent inside the hospital. I only go to my house to visit my family every 3 days just to see them, and after that I go back to the hospital. I was very upset and very sad that I saw the hospital get stolen by thieves from under the cover of Israeli army, of course, because they were like 1 block away from the hospital. They not allowing even the policemen to come to the hospital, but they allow the thieves to come to the hospital at the Khan Younis city. So we decided after contact with the Ministry of Health here and with Dr. Atif Al-Houd, the director of the hospital, and also Dr. Muhammad Zagout, and they gave us the support to continue our stay inside the hospital because our stay, we tried to protect. Actually, I worked like a guard for the hospital. I trying to push away the thieves. I have a broken hand at that time because I was following the thieves to get them away from the hospital. They throw stones on us because I consider this is my house, actually. This is my home, the first home, because there's a lot of memories inside each room and inside each department. In every department, nearly in every department here, I treated a patient, at least I rescued a life here. So I consider it my first home. And with the minimal equipment at that time, and under the threatening of continuous threatening of Israeli army to invade Rafah, so Nasser was the only hospital remain in Gaza to provide the secondary and tertiary health care for patients. So we decided at that time to reopen the hospital, whatever it cost. Even at that time, from the 15th of February until 20th of March, when at night, the only Palestinians inside Khan Younis were us, the colleagues, me and my colleagues inside the Nasser Hospital. There was nobody in Khan Younis city except the workers inside the Nasser Hospital. It was risky, yes, but our goal was to reopen the hospital again, and we were afraid as a nation or as a population that Israel would invade Rafah. Najjar Hospital and European Gaza Hospital will stop at any moment.
Khaled, I wanted to ask you a question before we move on to your time in detention in greater detail. I just want to acknowledge, the strength to, despite these attacks on your hospital, despite the risk to your own life, to the lives of your colleagues, you keep coming back to your hospital, which, as you describe, is your home. And that really speaks to your strength as a surgeon, your testament and dedication to your patients, which is absolutely phenomenal. I know many people are on the call who are also workers. There are many people who remember that initial WhatsApp chat that we had with you. where there are questions asked, you might have had some clinical thoughts, and there were some suggestions given and solutions that were found. What are your thoughts about a chat like that? Because many of us who are not in Gaza right now, many of us who have been unable to get into Gaza, and I know Dr. Osama has been able to get into Gaza a couple of times at least. Is that something that is helpful for you or for your colleagues, or did it put you at risk at all? Or I don't know if the Israelis were following the chat at all, but I know even to get signal, often people would have to go to the roof in the hospital, which was risky for them because of snipers firing. But what were your thoughts about that chat? Is that something we could consider doing in the future? Is that something for physicians and surgeons outside of Gaza to do to help? Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. Actually, at that time, it was very necessary for me to get an opinion. It was difficult for me to call my colleagues inside Gaza because there was no connections. It was easier to contact with the world through internet, eSIM, but it was difficult to call a regular phone anyone inside Gaza because the Israeli army destructed all the infrastructures and all the air cells has been destructed. At that time, it was very useful. I myself used the chat and the WhatsApp group to help my patients, and alhamdulillah, many of them has been rescued by using this chat. These days, actually, I propose to make it more than a chatting. I gave a proposal to one of the international committees here working now in Gaza to make a project with virtual reality inside Gaza, that we can use the virtual reality inside the operation theater with the help of surgeons or consultants who might not be able to come to Gaza easily, but we can get their opinions inside the operation theater. This is very helpful. And also the WhatsApp group now, we can make it more professional to get consultants from everywhere. Anyone can put their opinions because we also have a lot of challenges. Here inside the current situation actually in Gaza, we still have shortage of equipment. We still have shortage of everything, almost everything. We receive every month a group of doctors. We call them EMT, emergency medical team. They were supported by the international committees like MAB, UK Med, and Rahma. They come to Gaza. They provide help in person. They participate with us in surgery. But anytime the Israeli army may stop them to enter Gaza, they maybe refuse at any moment. We don't have all the specialties here. We receive general surgery, trauma surgery, vascular surgery, but sometimes we need more opinions.
Good.
And I think we can expand the idea from a WhatsApp group chat into a more professional, to be like an MDT, regular MDT every week, to discuss cases or difficult cases or challenges we face and compare it with the minimal equipment we have here in Gaza.
Well, very nice idea, Khaled. I think we came up with that idea, in January, and now you're providing us with a true, for those who can't make it to Gaza, to help and participate on basically, let's do a weekly or bi-weekly basis. So I offer you right now, if you have time, and if your colleagues have time, to prepare few cases, and we can work on making a webinar and have an expert with us. Like, for example, we had one of the most famous trauma surgeons with us on the webinar, Dr. Ken Metox. Basically, he was with us, and I'm sure he would be happy to provide you with all his, years of wisdom in managing complex cases in basically limited resources. He actually wants to comment and would love to hear from you, Dr. Matox. Yes, Dr. Matox. Dr. Matox, can you turn the mic on, please?
Yes, you can hear me now.
Yes, thank you, Dr.
I have been here all day. First, salam alaikum. We all have the same genome to take care of patients, and we hurt for you when you have no hospital, no supplies, and you are restricted. I am happy to provide input. I have provided input to the Orient, to Afghanistan, to Iraq during the earlier wars, and even used a cell phone in the operating room, in the abdomen and in the chest to guide people to say, this is what you can do. So yes, we can do it. Yes, it is very helpful. Even the U.S. Medical forces during the Gulf Wars had a weekly webinar that connected the entire world, the war zone, the Germany hospital, the hospitals in the United States. So it's very, very useful. And we should be neutral. As far as I know, in modern times, this is the first time that hospitals marked with a cross on the hospital, on the ambulance, have actually been targeted with the assumption, I assume, that there are military forces hiding in the hospital. I was happy to hear you say that there were no Hezbollah, Hamas individuals in your hospital. So there's an international policy issue here that we're going to have to talk about at the highest levels, and that is there's got to be respect for the cross on the side of an ambulance, the side of a tent, the side of a hospital, to say that is off grounds. But yes, I'm happy to be here today, and I'm happy to participate in the future. As a matter of fact, at the end of this conference, I have a similar conference with Mexico City and leading doctors in Mexico relating to the health care of the people who are transient across Mexico, who are not even from Mexico. And there are international issues that at our organizational level, we've got to get our arms around. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Dr. Matox. And, it's a great honor for us to be with us today and to provide such, years of wisdom in managing complex trauma to the people of Gaza. That's actually a great honor. And I just can assure you that I've been to Gaza twice, worked in two different hospitals. I haven't seen any militant or military, basically personals inside the hospitals at all. I have been to Al-Aqsa Hospital in the middle of Gaza and the Public Aid Hospital at the north of Gaza. So I haven't seen any military or militant groups inside the hospitals at all, and that's an eyewitness. And then Khaled at Nasser Hospital in the south of Gaza, he is confirming this reality that no militant or military groups are functioning inside the hospital. And that actually has been proven by all, a lot of other reports. So Khaled, the day of detention, you were a surgeon working inside a hospital, and out of sudden the Israeli army would, invade the hospital and take you in custody. Can you tell us exactly what happened on March 25th?
On March 25th, the Israeli army, they took Khan Yunis, or they invaded the western side of our city within 1 hour or 2 hours. A soldier came on foot and they surrounded the hospital area. We wake up hearing shootings everywhere. And after that, the airstrikes bombing nearby the hospital. We were surprised that the army are at our door without any warning. After that, the tanks came to the hospital or the surroundings area of the hospital. A lot of tanks in the morning, and after 6 hours of the first shootings, and we saw that we are surrounded. We will not be able to leave the hospital. So we decided to be inside the buildings. We contacted the director of the hospital, and we told him that the Israeli army has entered the hospital again. The Israeli army, our tanks and the D9, they were doing an activity or military activity in front of our side, in front of the main gate of Nasser Hospital. They distracted a lot of buildings at that time. After 20 or 48 hours, they sent a drone with a speaker ordering us to leave the buildings. And also they sent a man, a prisoner, a Palestinian one, to tell us that the army is ordering you that you have to leave the hospital now, or he will bomb the hospital. So we leave the hospital in a group, and he ordered us to take off all of our clothes in front of everyone. And he searched us and put us in a hole near the hospital. Like, we were more than 150, 20 to 31 healthcare staff, and the others were refugees. They were actually in the hospital even in February. And after like 6 hours, when we were naked in the streets, he took us into the buildings near the hospital, into the rooms. He put us in that rooms for interrogation. We were, for 3 nights, we were there without any blankets, naked, without any food, and barely they gave us once or twice water in these 3 days. And they took everyone, every 1 hour, they took 1 or 2 for interrogation. And after that, they decided either to release him or to take him to the prison. They interrogated me in the 4th day. The only question they asked me was, what are you doing in October 7? I told them that I was at home and I heard the bombings, and the hospital raised the alarm that everyone has to come to the hospital. And I came to the hospital. I helped patients. But this is the main question. You were in October 7, or since October 7, in hospital helping patients. So you might have some information. After that, they decided to take me to the prison. They did not ask anything else. This is the main question.
So for 3 days in a row, no water, little water, no food, you are naked in this, basically in this cold weather, and no blankets. And the main question was, you might know some information and what we were doing in October 7. That's their main question. And then you were telling that I'm a surgeon, and basically I was helping patients and treating patients, despite this fact, and they know you because they interrogated you before. So they know you despite that, and you are actually on social media. Did they ask you about your social media platform?
Actually, they asked me, but not in Khan Younis. They asked me, like, after 3 months inside the prison, they took me to interrogation again, and they asked me about my social media account.
But not on that particular day when they detained you.
No, they don't have any information about me. The only thing they know, the thing that I told them, I am a surgeon working at Nasser Hospital. So this was the main charge that they decide that he should be in prison.
Tanya, you have any questions?
Khaled, thank you. Thank you. And also, Dr. Maddox, thank you very much for being here with us. And Khaled, this is very important to know for legal reasons. At any time, did your captors ever give you a reason for why they were detaining you? And also, did you have any access to a lawyer to legal support or legal counsel, someone who could work as a lawyer in your defense, or did any of your colleagues have access to a lawyer? And were you able to communicate with the outside world? When was the first time you were able to do that? These are very important questions for the legal ramifications of what this abduction and detention means, not just for you, but for other healthcare workers. Thank you.
After my release, when I'm trying to describe the situation inside the prison, I don't think that even my family, they cannot believe that I managed to live at that life for more than 180 days. I have been surprised of my release. I also have been surprised that I was taken to the Israel. They did not speak anything to me. They are not telling me that I am taken to the to Israel, to the prison. I was tied. My hands were tied with the plastics behind my back, and my eyes were covered. And in the morning, like in 1 or 2 a.m., I was before one day, my transfer to Israel, inside the building, actually there were a bombing. This bombing came from outside, and a lot of soldiers with me, near me, get hurt and they get injured. And I was afraid at that time that when any soldiers, they beat me at that time, I was afraid one of them will be angry and shoot me. To describe it in details, I was in the ground floor. Here, the resistance shoot a rocket on soldiers, Israeli soldiers, on the first floor. A lot of them get injured, and they put them in the ground floor near me. A lot of blood were near me, and at that time, my stethoscope was with me, and it fell to ground. And it has a story also, because of my stethoscope, my family, my colleagues, and the hospital director, they thought that I have been killed by Israeli army, and they thought that because they saw my stethoscope inside the blood for 2 months. This is an answer for your question, because I was not allowed to see anyone. I was not allowed to contact with the outside world. You are not allowed even to speak with the nearby. We were in barracks, large barracks, 100 person inside one prison, and we have one bathroom for everyone. You have to sit down, not to speak, not to sleep, and not to look everywhere, because you are covered. Your eyes are covered all the time, and your hands are tied with handcuffs all the time. So you're asking me that if I am able to contact with a lawyer or outside world. I tell you I'm not allowed to speak with the one just sitting beside me, because if I do so, I will be punished by the guards. And actually the guards are young persons. They are 18 or 19 years. And actually I cannot imagine the hate that they do against us. These kids have all authorities to punish us, humiliate us, to beat us, and no one can ask them why. So if they saw us, even without any reason, they will punish us either to stand and to raise your hand for more than 4 hours in front of everybody. They may ask you to sit on your knees for more than 2 to 3 hours until the blood come out from your knees. Cursing every time. Even they don't know Arabic, but they learn the cursing words in Arabic to humiliate us. They cursing our moms, our sisters. They're trying to find ways how to humiliate us more.
So Khaled, just to put some points very clearly. You said you were in a building outside the hospital. You were detained initially in a building outside the hospital.
Yes, I was taken outside the hospital after
How far from the hospital?
To take off my clothes.
How far from the hospital, you remember?
It's about like 50
How
50
much?
meters away from the hospital.
So basically, that's where the shooting happened, basically to the soldiers, not inside the hospital.
Not inside the hospital. There's no single weapon inside the hospital.
Just to make sure things are. So Dr. Metix has a question, Khaled, here. He told you, when you were in streets naked, were both men and women medical workers both together or only men? So do you have women basically kidnapped or detained with you, healthcare workers, or you don't?
We were in the same ground, but the male in one side and the female in the other side. They asked our women not to take off their clothes. They took the hijab off to search them, and after that they released them. There's no one. They did not capture any women at that time, but like half of the men, they were get arrested.
Okay.
Me, and at that time, two of my colleagues were arrested, two nurses.
So you described the situation in the Teiman detention camp, which the Israeli army actually did not basically, it's not saying it's there. So the Israeli army is denying that there is a detention camp called Teiman. But you and Dr. Muhammad Arron both were in that Teiman detention camp, which is an unlawful detention camp. It's not covered under any law in Israel state.
And Osama, just to add to that, there's now multiple reports that have emerged from survivors of Teiman that have, and in fact, even videos that have documented horrific torture and abuse of prisoners, including sexual torture and violence, rape and gang rape of prisoners. So there are a lot of reports coming out of this detention center that Israel is saying doesn't exist. But maybe, Osama, to your point, Khaled, I wonder if you're able to comment on the conditions you saw at Teiman, the conditions you saw at Ofer, and how often there were other healthcare workers there with you. And Osama, you might have other comments as well on that. I just want to add that in.
Definitely, you had mentioned the things that are clear at the Teiman detention camp: sexual abuse, torture, harassment, the crowdedness. It's actually in the desert, and they are naked in the desert in the middle of the night. Can you comment?
And Osama, sorry to interrupt. Even what has been not uncommon are amputations of hands because the handcuffs or the ties they're using to tie the hands and bind the hands together are too tight. So there's been amputations. At times it's been reported without any anesthesia.
Khaled.
Yes, first, before I'm speaking in details in Teiman situation, I want to speak more about my transfer to Israel, because at that time we were inside. After bombing the main house that we were held in, they transferred us to another building, and in the morning, without any warning, soldiers came and they called my name and the two others with me, and they took us. At that time, I was punished and I was beaten in the previous days, but at that time everything changed. They started to beat us more with their rifles, with their batons, and they tied my hands tightly behind my back. And I shouted from pain and asked them that it's very tight. And he mocked me and told me at that time, "You are a doctor, you know that 1 or 2 hours will not cut your hand." And also he tied my legs together, so I was not able to move or even to walk. And they forced me to jump into a high car. We call it Kamaza. I don't know the name of it. It's high car. It's military car. I was not able to do that, so they started to beat me again and again. And after that, they hold me and throw me like a case of tomato inside the car. I was not able to move. I started to shout in vain. Every time I tried to shout or ask them just to release my hand or to listen them a little bit, he beat me again and again. And during my transfer, they throw me to the ground again. I don't know where, like outside Gaza. They throw me on the stones and pull me and ask me again to stand up and jump or move. And every time I could not do that, I was saying I'm not able to do that. They beat me again and again. And they said three words, actually. In Arabic, they said, we were three. They said, ثلاثة معدومين. These three will be killed. The soldiers talking among each other, these three are going to be killed. So I was shocked, but I cannot express, I cannot do anything because I'm shouting in pain, and I'm hearing that I'm going to be killed in the next moment. After that, they put me in another car, and the beating continues, the humiliation continues. They asked me to bark, they asked me how the donkey is saying, how the duck is saying, and they humiliated us all the way to the prison. The humiliation continued, and after entering the prison, it was another story or new story of humiliation. If Osama, if you can allow me to share a picture from my phone, am I able to share this?
Yes, I'm gonna make you a host. Change, actually co-host. So you are now the host now.
Okay.
Can you share?
I will try to share something.
But make sure you don't close it.
Okay, I'm not.
And Khaled, while you're pulling up those photos, Osama, I wonder if there's, you know,
he shared
perfect.
this.
Perfect.
Go ahead, Khaled. We can see it. Khaled?
This is yes. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes. Okay. This one, the barracks. This is called Section B. Section B in Arabic, the guards and we as prisoners, we called it the hell section because the treatment there was the worst among the four sections. There's section A, B, D, and this was the worst. The picture showing the barracks, it's only a floor. Everyone has a very thin mattress that cannot protect you, is not protecting you from the ground, and you have to sit down all the day. You are not allowed to speak with anyone near you. If you do that, you will be punished. Your eyes are covered, and you are not allowed to see anyone get caught sneaking or trying to look. He will be punished severely. The picture, is, as you see, this force called Force 100, but we, as prisoners, we call it the dog's force. In Arabic, فرقة الكلاب. This force supposed to do like a search for the prison or for the barracks, but the actual work for them is to beat the prisoners, humiliate the prisoners. I have been beaten a lot by them. I have 2 or 3 ribs broken by them because they use their batons to punish us and to beat us during their invasion. Suddenly, while you are sitting, trying to avoid any punishment, you were surprised that there is a sound bomb near you, and after that, all the 2 dogs and all the guards entering the prison, and they're starting to beat you. This picture, as you see, all the prisoners are on their tummies. Can you see that?
Yes, we can see that.
Yes.
So the first order, when they ask us, everybody on their tummy, we know that there is a Force 100 will enter the prison. And even the men or the men on their tummies, they were terrified because, as you see, they took one by one near the fence and they're starting to beat him with batons. and sometimes they use their electrical guns on them. And I witnessed a lot of them get electrical guns. They shoot them in their private areas, and they use batons in their private areas. And the sad thing for me, and the frustrating thing more, and for me as a doctor, when my cellmates or the prisoners came to me after this invasion and asked me for any advice, and I'm helpless because I cannot help them, I cannot give them any advice, but I witnessed by my eye a lot of sexual harassment and sexual abuse for them, using the baton, using the electrical shocks, using also the pepper spray on their faces and also on their private parts.
Okay, well,
this is just one part of the story, because every day you are humiliated to ordered to be on your path for more than 18 hours, allowed even to rest yourself or rest your back, and you are not allowed to talk with one next to you. You cannot imagine how you can survive this even for 24 hours if you imagine yourself to be sitting on the floor. Even when you are trying to rest at night, the mattress is very thin. You are sleeping on the floor, literally. They gave us one blanket. It cannot cover us or protect us from the cold. And in the early morning, like in the 4 or 5 a.m., it was still a cold weather. They ordered us to release or to take off the blankets. And despite the weather is very cold, and we tried to complain, but there is no way to complain to the guard that we need more blankets or it's very cold. They mock us and laugh at us because they said, you are strong, you can withstand this. This is the reply for every time we're trying to ask something.
Okay, Khaled,
yes.
just basically not to lose the connections, I made you the host. Can you make me a co-host? Just right click on my name and just make me a co-host. So just if you lose the connection, we don't lose the webinar. The question is from Malak, is asking, for example, you have lived almost 3 months at the CD Teiman with this same condition. Basically, you work in the morning. This is exactly, you stay like this all day, and then you just go to bed at night, and this punishments, and like 3 months with the same kind of scenario.
You know, yesterday I cried from one thing I heard here in the hospital. My colleagues complained that there is one bathroom for 20 doctors, and it's very busy. I imagine my situation back in City Teiman. We were 101 for one bathroom. From the morning, if you want to go to the bathroom, you have to decide that after 2 hours, I might want the bathroom. So you have to decide earlier. Otherwise, you will be on yourself, because there is 100 person needed the bathroom. And the only way to move your legs is to go to the bathroom. In May, when the weather gets more warmer and hotter, they brought us the bread, roasted bread, and they forced us, this is the only thing you have to eat it. You know, me, myself, I have a story with a nurse there. When I tried to tell him that I'm a doctor, he shouted at me, and every time he came to the cell, he cursed me a lot, because I tried just to describe that I'm a doctor. It might be like.
So this nurse was an Israeli nurse. One of the guards was a nurse. Yeah.
Most of the time, we did not receive qualified health care there, because most of them were soldiers or trained soldiers in their first year. And they, I don't know the name of their degree, but he's a soldier, like a paramedic. They does not know the basic healthcare providing, even dressing. standing. If I try to comment or to provide my help, they will threaten me.
There were some, eyewitnesses and some reports about these paramedics, the Israeli paramedics or doctors or nurses in detention camp. Actually, they have participated in torturing the Palestinian prisoners, by not providing proper care to them, by denying proper care to them, by neglecting them. Can you comment on the rule of these?
Yes, I can comment.
And also because it would be good, Khaled, sorry, just to jump in as well, it would be good in addition to know, after all the beatings, the tortures, the electric shock, how often did you or the other people that were being detained, how often did you receive any medical attention for your wounds? I know you had some infections on your arms, for example, and to Osama's point, yes, tell us if you've heard of the medical personnel actually participating in the torture.
Okay. First of all, my hands, I told you that when they transferred me from Khan Yunis toward the prison, they touched me closely, and I have paresthesia in my fingers for more than 4 months. I've get healed off by myself. When we tried to ask them about this, the prisoners will know this. The same answer: you are strong, you can do it, you can withstand the pain. Or other answer we received from the guards when we ask a paramedic or we ask that we have a patient, we need a doctor. They said, "Anta gawi." They does not know Arabic, but they listen. They learned 1 or 2 words. You are strong. You can stand this pain. You can withstand the disease. Or drink water. Water will help you. This is the answer we get every time we ask for a doctor. For myself and everyone, almost everyone I met inside the prison, they have the same problem with paresthesia in fingers or in toes because they get closed tightly on their hands. Me, myself, 1 week before my arrest, I underwent a surgery in my thigh. I have a huge abscess, and my colleague did an incision for it. So I tried to keep it clean, but it was difficult for me because I have to wait the row or my turn to the bathroom to clean it. And even the nurses or the paramedic, when they come to the cell, you saw that it's an open barracks, and it's in my upper thigh. And they asked me to do the dressing myself, and they gave me a small piece of gauze to do the dressing. So I tried to keep it clean. Alhamdulillah, I'm fine now, but it healed after 1 month. Because it was difficult to get any ointment or any dressing. And to do that, I have to be naked in front of other prisoners to do my dressing for myself. This was more humiliation for us. And even when my friend there, he has an abscess, they kept him shouting in pain for more than 12 hours. And after that, when they took him outside, handcuffed and blindfolded to do the incision for the abscess, they did it without any local anesthesia. And he came back shouting in pain. We tried to ask for analgesia. You are asking for something forbidden. We need 1 pill of paracetamol. It's forbidden. And most of the time, they choose the paramedics to mock at us and humiliate us. I might met 1 or 2 out of 50 who were kind with us and they tried to provide help, actual help for us. But the majority of them were very angry from inside because their actions is very. It's not from one person who decided to be a paramedic or decided to be a nurse. He should provide. This is our message here. He decided to be a nurse so he can provide a health care for anyone. but they choose this to humiliate us and to mock at us. We have a lot of amputations patients in my cell. In section A, they call it the section of patients, and I was there for more than 1 month. And most of them needed daily dressing and daily medication. And that section was near a clinic. They call it a hospital or Beit Cholim in Hebrew. And every day we hear the shouting of patients inside the hospital, which is about 50 meters or 30 meters away from our cell. And after like 1 week, when we received the patient came back from the hospital. He told us that every day they did the dressing without any analgesia, without any anesthesia for him. Because of that, every day shouting on pain.
Okay, Dr.
In Ofer,
I just want Dr. Matt, you have a question? Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Khaled.
The last thing when we were transferred in also at detention camp, both of them were a military camp for soldiers, but transferred at detention camp after October 7. Most of the prisoners suffered from scabies. And when we tried to complain or ask for medication, they left us down 2 or 3 weeks with itching and pain. And to get there is no medication. Waited for more than 2 to 3 weeks, and now they know that we are scabies, so they
Khaled?
they leave us without any medication.
Khaled, I think we're losing your
And actually, even now,
yeah.
Now is it okay?
Yeah, now it's okay.
And even now, when any prisoners get released, they also telling us the same story. They still suffer from scabies. Every prison, like in An-Naqab prison and Ofer prison, all diseases.
Okay. Dr. Metix, do you have any questions for Khaled? You raised your hand. For our attendees, feel free to write any questions you want for Khaled on the questions and answer platform. Now, Khaled, so 3 months at the CD Teiman Ofer, were there the daily interrogations with you about what's happening, or what was the main questions, and what was the circumstances where you moved to Ofer prison? Why?
After my prison, the first time they took me to the interrogation after 90 days of my arrest. In the whole 3 months, nobody talked with me about the reasons of my prison. I was just held in the detention without any reason, without talk to me. You are not allowed to talk with anybody. And after 90 days, they took me to the interrogation. And I thought that there is any charge against me, but unfortunately, the same questions. What were you doing in October 7? And what was your job at Nasser Hospital? The same questions. And they did not ask me anything else. They asked about my job as a surgeon. And I participated in treatment of any kidnap, as it is like a charge, or it is to be guilty to heal patients or to provide any service for the patients. And they make a fake charges for everyone inside the prison. I have been taken to the interrogation the 90th days, or after 3 months. After 2 months, 1 month before this, after 2 months of my arrest, they took me to a fake court. They handcuffed my hands behind my back and covered my eyes already covered. And then they took me outside the cell and they put me on the chair under the sun. And they removed the blindfold. And I saw a phone with a guy in front of me inside the video call telling me that you are in the court now and you are charged to be in the prison at the end, to the end of the war. Asked him, I have not to get any legal consultation. I have not been able to contact any lawyer. He does not care. He did not care at all about my speech. He just wants to say these words. You are guilty, and you are in prison to the rest of the war, until the war ends. And this is for the 90% of the prisoners inside the prison. It's the same. So it's like a fake court. When I asked my lawyer, when he came to visit me and like after 4 months of my detention, he told me this is like a fake court. There is no standards for this. It's just like something you want to hope that you are in charge, but nobody actually has a real charge because they after 1 month of this court.
So they made a fake court, Khaled, and they made it for all other prisons. They will get you in, and they'll tell you you are guilty. You don't have access to lawyer. You don't have a clear, basically, you don't have any clear, basic charges, and they'll tell you you are in the prison until the end of the war. That's it.
That's it. I asked him, I want to see a lawyer. I did not has not been offered to get a lawyer or any legal consultation. He did not care. He just wanted to say these sentences. You are charged to be a terrorist, and you will be in the prison until the end of the war. This is 2 sentences he want to speak on. After that,
Okay. Tanya.
Yes, Khaled, I'm turning to the chat because we have some excellent questions there. Sarah D has a question about, did you get any sense as to whether any of the detainees with you were minors? Were they children? Were they under the age of 18? Any sense of minors being detained with you? I know they would beat you and you couldn't speak to other people, but any idea on that?
Actually, I met one person, one child, aged 16-year-old. He was taken to interrogation. This happened in July, I think. And when they took me from Ofer camp to the interrogation inside the city Teiman camp, he was just beside me in the transferring car. And we were able to talk to each other at that time. So and he told me he got arrested in the northern side of Al-Nusayrat city. It's in the middle of Gaza Strip. But after my release, I followed the news of prisoners. There is for minors or anyone under the age of 18, they collect all of them and put them in a separate prison away from the other prisoners. And because of that, I only was able to see one prisoner, a minor, age 16.
Khaled, where did you meet other healthcare workers, Palestinian healthcare workers, detained with you at Sidi Teiman or Ofer prison? Surgeons, nurses, Palestinians in these detention camps and prison? Khaled, can you hear us? Khaled, can you hear us?
We may need to reconnect by phone.
No, he's No, we can't reach him. His phone cannot be reached.
Well, Osama, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I know in shortly after October the 7th, Israel came up with the unlawful combatants law. And this was a law that had sweeping ramifications for who was able to be detained without charge and also incommunicado, basically without any ability to definitely contact a lawyer or no ability to contact friends, family, about whereabouts. What are your thoughts about this law? Because it seems that it's being used indiscriminately for people who are clearly healthcare workers, just like Khaled, who are being held without charge, clearly are not combatants. And this law is being applied to so many people, both in Gaza and the West Bank, actually. Your thoughts on that?
My thoughts is this: we know that according to the Geneva Conventions, healthcare workers, healthcare facilities are protected under the international humanitarian law. And as Dr. Matax, this is the only time in history where hospitals and healthcare workers are, intentionally and deliberately being targeted again and again and again with these, excuses that the Israeli army is providing to themselves. And, it just, I think, failure of humanity, failure of these international, societies to protect the innocents and civilians. And I can tell you, the people of Gaza feel, by being twice there, they really feel that the international societies, the United Nations, the UN Council, the WHO, actually they did not do enough to relieve the suffering of the Palestinians. And at some point, they almost feel that they're actually maybe complicit, because it doesn't make sense that you have 2.2 million people inside this open air prison where you don't get food inside, you don't get medical supplies inside, you're targeting hospitals. So it's really so unprecedented in the human history what's happening there, and it's actually being broadcast live to us, and yet nobody is doing anything. Well, I'm going to try one more time with Khaled. Hopefully we can catch up with him. Otherwise, I believe we got basically a clear idea of what he had suffered to. They have problems with the internet. They have problems with electricity. For when he started, actually, there was no electricity in the hospital, so he had to wait for the electricity to come. So again, there are some questions there. I hope we'll keep them for Khaled next time. But if he does not connect in few basically minutes, we will finish the meeting. So Tanya, you are working with some medical students about this project of trying to surveying physicians who served in Gaza about their eye witnessing the human catastrophes, the type of injuries. Can you tell us some information about this basically group that you're doing and research project?
Absolutely. And in fact, we've been very fortunate because the last 3 days or so, we've had Dr. Feroz Sidwa come and join us. And he's a trauma surgeon from San Joaquin Hospital out in California. And also Dr. Tammy Abu Ghanem, who works in Chicago, has been with us. And we've been hearing cases and presentations from them at the University of Chicago, for trauma grand rounds. We've had them present at the medical school, at the law school. So a lot of the work we're doing is with the law school at the University of Chicago with Professor Anjali Perrin, who is the head of the Global Human Rights Clinic at the University of Chicago in the law school. Something that's important, and Dr. Maddox, I would love to know your experience as well, and your international experience as trauma surgeons, or in your case, trauma and hepatobiliary surgeons, Osama. We deal with the patient that's in front of us. We stop the bleeding, we suture the holes, we bring the patient to the OR as fast as possible, and we deal with their injuries. What's important for for those who work in international law, and especially when we're dealing with human rights violations, when we're talking about issues of genocide, lawyers take a different approach, especially forensic lawyers. They're interested, and it's very important to them to know what patterns are being seen. And again, I know in my mind, I'm like interested in the person in front of me. But much like the south side of Chicago, I can say I keep seeing children that present with gunshot wounds to the head over and over again, and they're 5 and 7 and 9 years old. I can see those patterns, much like the patterns that we're hearing about, that Feroz spoke about in his New York Times op-ed, which maybe we can put in the chat, I'll find that, where he also interviewed surgeons who had been to Gaza to say, hey, why do you all keep talking about children that are shot in the head? And these stories kept coming up. And they were talking about the malnutrition and starvation, temporal wasting of many patients. So when it's happening, when you're seeing injuries that occur in a systematic fashion over and over again, it's hard to say, well, maybe that child was just in the wrong place, the wrong time. There's something systematic to that. And though the documentation of that, if there's anyone on this call who will be going to Gaza, the documentation of seeing similar patterns of injury is very important to document. I'll hand it over to Dr. Maddox, and then we're happy to see Dr. Khaled Al Serr, Khaled's cousin, join us. So Dr. Maddox, any thoughts about that issue? Or have you seen any similar such injuries in your international experience?
We've been looking for patterns in the migrants that are coming through Mexico and then distributed, especially those that are victims of human trafficking. We have seen very, very little in Houston directly. We get some indirect information. But yes, the World Health Organization, the AAST, the Eastern Association for the Surgery of Trauma, organizations even in the Middle East, we are all interested in these patterns. We followed the patterns when we were dealing with COVID, and we did that on an international basis. As a matter of fact, we are still pursuing some of the viruses. So, but we also must have hard data. Right now, with the political polarizations that are occurring, we are getting false information, fake information, using comparing CNN and Fox News. You get two separate stories and twists on the same data. So as we in the health communities are tabulating data, we must absolutely be sure that it's solid data, good data, and is not distorted in any way. We've received the truth today, and all of us have made our notes. So I would leave us by saying, just in doing a scientific paper, we've got to have solid, good data supported by all of the hard visual, audio, and written information as possible. And ultimately, the truth will come out. Cream rises to the top. So this has been very helpful today. Thank you. I think we have Dr. Serr back, Khaled Al Serr back on the line, do we not?
Khaled, are you with us now?
Yes, I am with you. I will be on voice.
Good. Okay. So Khaled, you left us when you were talking about this fake court that they made for you, and they just charged you guilty for whatever charges that basically you're a terrorist. And then later on, they moved you to the Ofer prison. And in Ofer prison, you actually got to meet a lawyer there, and you talked to a lawyer. Is that right?
Yes, and I think a lot of prisoners there have the chance to get a lawyer inside Ofer, but the situation to meet a lawyer is very humiliating also. When they get us and they does not allow to give us any information. They just came to the cell or a small room with a 20 person inside it, and they shout names, and they took us with blindfolded, and as always, our hands are tied behind our backs, and they took us without any word. We does not have the privilege to ask where are you taking us, and they put us in a waiting area. The waiting area is a floor under the sun in June or July, and you have to wait on your knees for more than 3 hours or 4 hours sometimes to meet your lawyer. And your lawyer are not allowed to give you any information from outside, even when we ask him a lot, what is the news, what's happening in Gaza. He told us that he is not allowed from the soldiers to speak anything outside the prison, just your situation and what is your message to your family. So even I met I was grateful that I have been to the court in Teiman, because the same situation happened. If they took you to the fake court in Ofer, they put you under the sun for more than 3 hours, and after that, when your turn came, they took you to the court or to the lawyer. Okay. And the lawyer is only allowed to see you for 30 minutes. Okay. And it's not enough to speak anything with him, because most of my speech with my lawyer was about my arrest and what happened with me inside the Teiman and in Ofer. Okay. And I was not able even to send a message to my family.
Did you see other healthcare workers in prisons, like, physicians, nurses, Palestinian nurses? Yes. Can you tell us about their situation and who are they?
I met one person called Muhammad Tafish. He was an OT nurse inside the Shifa Hospital. Actually, he was the only OT nurse back in March at Shifa Hospital. I met also Midhat Abu Tabanja, the head of ICU department in Indonesian hospital. He got hurt a lot, actually, inside the prison. And also Dr. Al-Kuka, Dr. I forgot his first name. He also was an orthopedician in Shifa Hospital. Okay. And a lot of nurses and volunteers of healthcare staff inside the prison. But there you are not allowed to speak. Instead, in Ofer, we have the privilege to speak with each other inside the room. But if you want to speak with other rooms, you will be punished.
Okay. Tanya, do you want to ask Khaled any questions before we go to the final questions for the colleagues, and then we'll finish?
Sure. Khaled, thank you for sharing this incredibly difficult experience you went through. I think there's many of us that are very interested in your return to Nasser Hospital. What did your patient population look like now? How do they look now compared to, are you treating the same injuries? What did that look like? And then many of us are just amazed at your strength of will and want to know what makes you keep going back to work. What makes you keep, after such an experience, such a traumatizing experience, what gives you that strength to keep caring for your patients? But if you could talk to those things, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, first I will speak about myself, how I returned to my job again. And after that, I will talk about the current situation, because there is also a change in the quantity and the quality of casualties we're receiving here at Nasser Hospital. For myself, after my release, I went to the Nasser Hospital after 1 week of my release. Actually, full recovery from what happened to me inside the prison will not happen. I will not have a full recovery from it. The only thing that I did is just to hide my memories and my bad memories inside the prison. And to be with my patients again, to feel as a human again, because most of my time inside the prison, I was treated as a subhuman. You are not allowed to do anything, even to breathe, without any permission from the guard. So my recovery, or my life going on, because now I'm feeling that I am a surgeon and I have a job to do. I put a lot of tasks on myself just to be busy away from the bad memories that happened to us outside the prison. And Alhamdulillah, now I can say that I'm completely recovered. I'm able to do surgeries and also to work with a lot of colleagues here. I'm working now with colleagues coming in from abroad, with EMT doctors. In regard to the current situation, yesterday we were in the meeting with the director of the hospital, and they described that the admission rate doubled regarding the last year. This happened because that a lot of population now are condensed in Khan Yunis city. The Rafah has been, all of them has been forcibly displaced to Al Mawasi, which is situated in the western side of the city near the Nasser. And Nasser Hospital actually is the only hospital providing secondary and tertiary health service here. And because of that, a lot of cases came to here, even medical cases also. There's doubling in number, even in the emergency room. Despite that, a lot of hospital fields and primary clinics opened in Al Mawasi just to decrease the amount on the crowdness inside this hospital. But despite all of that, there is a lot of cases we're receiving every day. If you can imagine that we prepare ourselves for mass casualties, every week we receive 1 or 2 mass casualty events. But Alhamdulillah, after 1 year or 13 months of war, we got the experience to withstand these mass casualties professionally. And a lot of EMT doctors here amazed how we can do that, and we keep continue going and providing even healthcare service for elective cases, for oncology cases, for medical cases, despite the amount of job that we have here.
Okay, Khaled, for the sake of time, I would like also, to thank you for being with us. We started in January and it's December, and we're going to continue with you forever, Khaled. And actually, we learned from you guys, the Palestinian surgeons in Gaza and everywhere. We learned from you what does it mean to be a true human, a true physician, where you put your patient safety and basically interest always first, regardless of the situations. I have few guests who have been with us since the beginning. The first one is Usaid. Can you, Usaid, with 2 minutes, maximum 3 minutes, comment on your experience with Khaled, daily group, WhatsApp, presentations, and what need to be done basically for the future for the Palestinian cause and the Gazan people? Usaid.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. My name is Ofer and I'm a general surgery resident. I'm yes, Khaled's cousin, and in fact we studied medicine together, same class. Khaled stayed in Gaza and became a surgeon, and I left a few years to pursue my surgical training after. And honestly, like I just miss Gaza, and I feel like bad for just being inside Gaza. And so, Khaled has been through a lot, and so, Khaled has so much energy that very few of us have. And to the point, like, he was detained twice. He's been through a lot, and he keeps coming back. And I think that speaks to the quality of Palestinian surgeons and physicians overall, and healthcare workers, who basically they don't really care about like getting salary or living such a nice Western lifestyles. All what they care about is to serve their patients and do the job, and not even just a job, because it's literally like a lot of physicians and healthcare workers have not been receiving salaries for, I want to say, many years. And so I don't know how they survive. I lived through it as a medical student and as a junior doctor, but I just almost forget how people can adapt to the situation. The Khaled, and Khaled can speak to that too. Back in January, because of the mass casualties he received at Nasser Hospital, with the killing of surgeons, abduction of surgeons, and displacement, he was the only general surgeon around that time. And so he himself created the WhatsApp group where he essentially invited people from the community to join and help him discuss those kind of cases. And so it was very popular at that time, and more than 1,000 healthcare workers joined, including surgeons, intensivists, etc. And so, that group, he discussed a lot of cases, and a lot of the decision making was life saving. And one of I can give one story of the patients is like, and Khaled knows that patient is a 35-year-old man who was a nurse who was shot in the operating room, and Khaled was next to him. He placed a chest tube and resuscitated him, and likely didn't require OR. But that individual, that OR nurse, circulator nurse, was abducted a week after from inside the hospital, just before Khaled was abducted. And so Khaled discussed his case, and a lot of people kind of joined and discussed his case and helped out in managing his traumatic injuries. So the group was not just to discuss like how to manage trauma, but also it was kind of an eyewitness to document the attacks on healthcare, the attacks on a hospital that basically was just a hospital. And so for those who have not joined us before and don't know much about this efforts, I would invite you to go to just search, and I can provide the link in a second, Telemedicine kind of initiative, Lancet. So it was published in the Lancet. And we, as Dr. Maddox, we documented that. We used data approach where we documented everything that Khaled presented in a systematic fashion, in a scientific fashion, and provided the very first research article that documented actual traumatic injuries, while also providing our telemedicine experience and how that went, and compared it to other kind of war situation and austere environment situations. I don't want to take much of their time, but Khaled, if he has any comments about it, and definitely feel free to comment with your input too.
So, I have also Zarina with us, and Zarina had actually done a great job on creating this WhatsApp group. So Zarina, can you comment on this efforts when you started this WhatsApp and Telegram group for supporting the telemedicine?
So I certainly can't take credit. All the technology goes down to Khaled, who is, despite all the challenges of internet access, which was actually a perilous situation in Nasser Hospital because we were relying on eSIMs. What the WhatsApp group allowed us to do was to have a 24-hour live service. So it was worldwide. It encompassed about 1,000 doctors who genuinely provided an extra pair of eyes and an extra pair of ears for Khaled, who, bless him, became 15 surgeons in the price of one. He was doing maxillofacial surgery, he was doing cardiothoracic surgery, he was doing general surgery. And what was such a challenge to all of us was that none of what the scenario presented represented anything to do with the normal guidance and protocols that we work by, because equipment was challenged, because the environment was challenged, because the injuries were so complex, because of the malnutrition that we were seeing. So decision making also had to be proportionate to Khaled's experience as well. So having multiple experts, consultants, trauma surgeons, disaster medicine experts in one room was exactly what was needed to provide what was the best possible care available, but it also provided a pastoral service for people, not only for all the people who are watching almost feeling helpless from abroad, but most importantly for Khaled. And it's probably better that Khaled mentions how much it was a support to him, because it was a place where suddenly there were normality. We were providing a normal space. And it seems almost strange to think that social media provided a normal space, but it really did provide a normal space for Khaled and the team to be able to just talk about what they'd have for dinner, what it was like, what the light was like, And I think there's this wonderful thing about these chat groups, that they are a way of communicating. But Said was brilliant in managing the flow and traffic of information. So WhatsApp groups can become literally inundated with so many comments from goodwill. And actually, by being able to control the flow of information, we managed to focus on what Khaled needed most. So yeah, WhatsApp was great. But I think I was learning as much as everyone else about what you could do with it. And it was a really, really good resource.
Great. Thanks, Zarina, and thanks for your efforts. I believe you guys now moved to a Telegram, and since Khaled, was in prison, everything had slowed down, and I believe it's a time maybe with Khaled being with us now to reignite and to basically, get some energy in this WhatsApp group. What do you think, Khaled?
Yes, Osama. I think it's a brilliant idea to continue benefiting from this WhatsApp group. I was suggesting to meetings like to discuss cases in retrograde manner if we are not able to get an internet access easily, or to get professional opinions in a time manner. So I'm preparing some cases to discuss it with our friends in a webinar or in the WhatsApp group, to discuss what should be done better, combining or considering the minimum equipments here and the crowdness of cases and the mass casualty events. It might be helpful here, and I will ask my colleagues here to join us also to add their cases and to discuss these cases together.
Great. So Zarina and Khaled and Usaid will get some energy in these groups. A last comment I would like to hear from Simon. Simon is a trauma surgeon, has been a great advocate for the Gazan and the Palestinian cause. Simon is also, he has some radio show on this issue. Simon, can you comment about this webinar, about the WhatsApp group, about what need to be done for us out of Gaza to help the people of Gaza? Simon. Simon, can you hear me? So it looks like he can't hear me. Okay.
Osama, sorry, I sent you the link for people who are wondering how to join this WhatsApp group. It's still on WhatsApp, by the way.
Yeah.
But what we changed is that we made that anybody who would like to join has to fill out a verification form, just for more security purposes. For the protection of the healthcare workers and surgeons in Gaza. So I sent you that. If you can share it in the chat, that would be amazing.
So for those who basically with us and registered, we'll basically send you the link, but I'm going to share it with you on the chat, basically to everyone. Okay, so it's in the chat now, the link for the WhatsApp group, but you have to fill a Google Docs for verifications before we send you the link. There's basically a question, Khaled, from Zahra, about what tangible outcomes can we collectively work on from this to support Khaled, healthcare workers, and the Palestinians in general. I feel terribly guilty that Khaled is reliving his terribly traumatic experience just so we can get a clear idea of this barbaric genocide. So what we can do, Khaled, to help you, other than supporting you through WhatsApp groups and some social media support, what else we can do, Khaled?
Actually, the situation here, in a more detailed view, a lot of international committees here, including MAV, UKMed, and MSF, RCRC, they are trying to provide the required documents, and they brought here to us an emergency medical team of doctors, qualified doctors, come here to provide a hand of help here. But the Israeli restrictions, I think, forbid a lot of, or most of their efforts to support us. There's a lot of equipment still in shortage, but the restrictions on border, this is the thing that might be the struggle, the international community to get the help from outside. The situation, the only thing that we hope that this war will end one day and the border will get freely opened for getting support and medical supplies from outside, and for other colleagues from outside to come here to provide help for us. Yesterday, we received like more than 20 qualified doctors in trauma and general surgery, supported by a Rahma Society. Most of them, I actually encourage them to go to the northern Gaza, in Gaza City, to in public, I think, a public service hospital. It's the only hospital now is working in Gaza. They can provide support there more, because there's a shortage even in medical staff. And even if there is a medical staff, they are exhausted from the continuous flow of work. So I think the idea of making the group, the WhatsApp group, is to get more opinions and more help, because a lot of doctors who wanted to come to Gaza are not able to, because the restriction in the border.
Okay. Tanya, any final comments before we finish?
I think just the final comment is, again, on behalf of all of us, Khaled, thank you so much for being here and sharing with us your very difficult experiences, while simultaneously rejuvenating our commitment to helping you, helping patients and the Palestinian people. And so just to reiterate, to sign up on the Google Docs so we can keep the momentum going with this. And to Dr. Maddox's point, is we will need to collect these cases and review the data, have it reviewed in a peer review format to start public as well. So thank you so much for being with us, Khaled. And thank you, Osama, for the invitation to be here today with such wonderful people. Thank you all.
Khaled, thank you very much. Do you want to say any final comment before we end, Khaled?
Thank you, Sama. And I know this is the second meeting. I hope we have more time to explain more about the current situation and what happened. Actually, if I stayed for more than 10 hours, I will continue to speak about the details of what happened. I'll try to make it in short. But thank you for this opportunity. And thanks for everyone participated with us here, and for everyone who wanted to support us, and he does not have the opportunity to come to Palestine here, to come to Gaza to provide their supports in person. And that's all. Thanks for everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Fi aman Allah.
Fi aman Allah. Thanks, Dr. Matrix. Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll see you in a few weeks, guys. And thanks for everyone to be here. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.